Before the global coffee empire, there was a boy, growing up in the housing projects of Brooklyn. Howard Schultz didn't sip lattes, he watched his father struggle after getting injured on the job with no health coverage. That moment, he says, shaped his obsession with building a company that treated people better. Despite the odds, Schultz earned a football scholarship to Northern Michigan University. It was Ivy League, but for him it was everything. He was the first in his family to go to college. That small window changed the course of his life. Education exposed him to a bigger world, ideas, ambition, and eventually, his first real taste of business. After college, Schultz worked at Xerox, selling office equipment door to door. It wasn't glamorous, but it taught him resilience. He quickly rose through the ranks, yet something felt missing. Then came a turning point. He joined a small housewares company and noticed one odd client, a Seattle-based coffee shop buying tons of coffee makers. That company, Starbucks. Intrigued, Schultz flew to Seattle to see this curious coffee shop himself. What he found stunned him. Starbucks wasn't just selling beans, it was selling a ritual. The aroma, the baristas, the way customers lingered, it felt sacred. He wasn't just observing a store, he was witnessing a culture. In that moment, Schultz didn't see what Starbucks was, he saw what it could become. A year later, Starbucks sent Schultz to a trade show in Milan, and that's where everything changed. In Italy, coffee was more than a drink, it was a daily celebration. Espresso bars lined every street, baristas knew customers by name. Schultz had an epiphany. This wasn't just business, it was community. He returned to America with fire in his eyes and a mission in his heart. Schultz raced back to Seattle, eager to pitch his Italian-inspired coffeehouse vision to Starbucks founders. But they didn't buy it. To them, Starbucks was about beans, not brewed drinks. Schultz was devastated, but not deterred. If they wouldn't embrace his dream, he'd bring it to life himself. It wasn't betrayal, it was conviction. He was ready to risk everything to prove his belief was right. With no backing from Starbucks, Schultz started his own coffee chain, Il Giorno. The concept was bold: espresso drinks, standing counters, and Italian ambience. In America, people doubted it, investors hesitated, but Schultz hustled, pitching to anyone who'd listen. Finally, he raised $1.6 million from 242 small investors. It wasn't luck, it was grit, obsession, and belief that coffee could change culture. In 1987, Starbucks decided to sell. Schultz saw his moment and moved fast. Backed by his Il Giorno investors, he acquired Starbucks for $3.8 million. Suddenly, he wasn't just starting a cafe. He was holding the keys to a brand. Schultz didn't just want to sell coffee, he wanted to build a third place between home and work. A vision was now a mission, with a brand behind it. Schultz didn't just scale a brand, he crafted an experience. Stores were designed with warm lighting, cozy seats, and music that made people stay. Baristas weren't just workers, they were partners, offered stock options and healthcare. This wasn't fast coffee, it was intentional, human, and aspirational. Starbucks became a mirror of Schultz's values. And soon, it wasn't just a coffee chain, it was a lifestyle. As Starbucks expanded rapidly, some board members grew nervous. "You're romanticizing coffee," one said. They pushed for faster growth, tighter margins, but Schultz pushed back. To him, sacrificing quality or partner benefits would kill the soul of Starbucks. He wasn't building a product, he was building trust, and he knew, if that ever broke, no amount of expansion could fix it. In 1992, Schultz took Starbucks public. Wall Street didn't know what to make of it, espresso at scale, but investors bought in. On day one, Starbucks stock soared by 61%. Schultz had done the impossible, turned a niche cafe concept into a booming public company. But behind the scenes, he worried, could Starbucks grow fast without losing its soul? That question would haunt every decision ahead. As Starbucks opened store after store, Schultz kept repeating one mantra: "We're not in the coffee business serving people, we're in the people business serving coffee." It wasn't about lattes, it was about human connection. Every chair, every song, every partner training, it all served that mission. Schultz knew that in a world moving faster, Starbucks had to be the place where time slowed down. By the late 90s, Starbucks was no longer just American, it was global. From Tokyo to London to Dubai, the green siren logo became a symbol of urban sophistication. Schultz walked through foreign cities, watching people sip Starbucks with the same comfort he saw in Seattle. His vision had crossed borders, but with each store he also asked, how do we keep the heart while scaling the footprint? By 2000, Schultz was exhausted. After 2 decades of non-stop growth, he stepped down as CEO. The company was thriving, but Schultz felt distant from the mission. He needed time, space, perspective. As he walked away, he wondered, would Starbucks stay true to its values without him? It wasn't just a leadership change, it was a test of the culture he had built from the ground up. In the years after Schultz left, Starbucks kept growing, but something changed. Stores felt colder. Automatic machines replaced the sound of grinding beans. Speed took priority over soul. Schultz, now watching from the sidelines, felt a pang of regret. He hadn't built a coffee empire for efficiency, he built it for experience, and what he saw now was the scent of something slipping away. In 2008, with Starbucks stock plummeting and customer loyalty fading, Schultz returned as CEO. He walked back into the office not as a savior but as a barista at heart. His first move, close 7,100 stores for retraining. The message was clear: we rebuild from the cup up. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a reboot of values, one espresso shot at a time. The world was reeling from the 2008 financial crisis, and Schultz faced pressure to cut costs, but he doubled down on people. No layoffs, no cutting partner benefits. Instead, he launched bold ideas like instant coffee innovation and ethical sourcing. While others shrank, Starbucks recentered. Schultz wasn't chasing numbers, he was restoring trust, and slowly, one ethical bean at a time, the company began to rise again. By 2017, Schultz stepped down again. But this time he left Starbucks stronger than ever. Over 25,000 stores, global influence, and a brand tied to purpose. From Brooklyn projects to coffee boardrooms, he didn't just sell drinks, he poured dignity into a business model. Schultz proved that kindness could scale, and that even in capitalism, humanity could be the main ingredient. Looking back, Schultz once said, "Starbucks isn't about coffee, it's about the people we serve." His journey wasn't perfect, but it was intentional. From every espresso shot to every partner hired, he tried to build something bigger than business, a place where dignity was brewed daily. And maybe that's the real legacy, not the brand, but the belief that even the smallest cup can hold purpose. But Schultz's story isn't finished. In recent years, whispers of political ambition began to swirl, talks of a presidential run, interviews about America's future. Could the man who reshaped coffee culture reshape a nation? He hasn't said yes, he hasn't said no, but one thing's clear: Howard Schultz still believes in bold ideas. And the next chapter, it might be brewed in a very different arena. In a letter to young entrepreneurs, Schultz wrote, "Dream big, but more importantly, dream responsibly." His path wasn't easy. It was filled with doubt, debt, and deeply personal decisions, but it proved that vision without compassion is just ego. Starbucks wasn't built on caffeine, it was built on care. So if you're chasing something big, remember, your values are the true product. Everything else is just the cup. Beyond headlines, Schultz's true legacy lives in smaller places, like the single mom barista who got health coverage, or the student who finished college thanks to Starbucks' tuition program. These aren't just perks, they're lifelines. Schultz believed business could uplift lives, and maybe that's his real revolution, not how he changed coffee, but how he made corporate kindness scalable. In 2014, Schultz launched one of his boldest programs, free college tuition for Starbucks partners. Critics called it idealistic, but Schultz called it necessary. Education, he said, shouldn't be a privilege for the wealthy. Thousands enrolled. For many, it was their first shot at a degree. Schultz wasn't solving the system, but he was creating cracks where light could get in. In every crisis, from racial tensions to refugee support, Schultz didn't hide behind corporate walls. He wrote open letters, made bold hiring pledges, and turned stores into spaces for dialogue. To some, it was risky. To him, it was responsibility. Starbucks became more than a brand, it became a platform. Schultz showed that leadership isn't about being safe, it's about showing up when it's hardest. Not everyone applauded Schultz's choices. Some shareholders grumbled, "Stay in your lane." Critics accused him of politicizing coffee, but Schultz never claimed to have all the answers, only that silence wasn't an option. Doing the right thing, he said, isn't always profitable right away. Still, Starbucks stock rebounded. In Schultz, he proved that values might cost, but they also compound. At times, Schultz paid for his principles. In 2018, after a controversial store incident, Starbucks closed 8,000 locations for racial bias training. It cost millions and drew headlines, but Schultz stood firm. If we're not willing to stop, to learn, then we're not who we say we are. It wasn't PR, it was painful progress. And in that moment, Starbucks acted more like a school than a store. For Schultz, it always came back to one moment, one person, one cup, the barista who remembers your name, the stranger who becomes a friend across the table. In a divided world, he believed Starbucks could be a tiny bridge. It's not about coffee, he often said, it's about connection. And maybe that quiet human moment across millions of stores was always the real business model. Howard Schultz didn't invent coffee, he reinvented what it meant. His journey teaches us this: success isn't about being first, it's about seeing what others overlook. Where others saw a bean, he saw a bridge. Where others chased profit, he chased purpose. And in every setback, he asked, what would I want if I were the customer? That question built Starbucks. That question could build anything. Even after stepping away, Schultz remains involved, mentoring leaders, investing in social ventures, and pushing for a more conscious capitalism. He's no longer chasing store counts. Now he's planting ideas about equity, dignity, and legacy. He says, if your company vanished tomorrow, would anyone miss it? For Schultz, Starbucks was never just about coffee. It was a question: can business leave the world better than it found it? It all started with a kid in the Brooklyn projects, watching his father fall through the cracks. That pain became fuel. That memory became mission. Howard Schultz didn't just build a coffee company, he built a statement. That dignity doesn't have to be expensive. That profit doesn't have to come at the cost of people. And that even in business, belief still matters. Schultz never claimed perfection. He made mistakes, faced backlash, recovered, but through it all he kept asking, what kind of company do we want to be? In a world obsessed with speed, he taught patience. In industries ruled by margins, he prioritized meaning. And in a culture chasing noise, he brewed moments of quiet. Maybe that's the mark of a real leader, building something that outlives you. Schultz's journey started with a broken home and built a global one. His story isn't just about coffee, it's about conviction, about seeing beyond the moment and daring to build for meaning. So what's your Starbucks? What's the idea you believe in so much? You de-stake your future on it, because maybe, just maybe, the next revolution won't come from a boardroom, but from a cup in your hand. If this story stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Hit subscribe, because here we explore the untold paths behind every brand, every founder, every bold idea. From coffee empires to quiet revolutions, you'll find the why behind the what. So grab your next cup, and let's keep brewing these stories together.